lasso. That was the formal one. So it's time for our formal session, our final session within the context of the retreat per se. We'll end on the grand finale, the subtlest of all the meditations we have done, and yet so widely misrepresented in this modern world. And that is, it's often called open presence, or simply resting. Open monitoring, it's called. And it's the most profound of practices. It's Dzogchen. When you've gone through all those phases that Yangchen Rinpoche has set forth, the preliminary practices, the shamatha and achieved it, vipassana and achieved it, identified the essential nature of awareness, the manifest nature of awareness, the non-duality of subject and object, you're resting in Rigpa, and then you're ready to practice open presence. But nowadays it's hard for me now to be a bit tough, but I will be tough, with the dumbing down of Dharma, where Vipassana is dumbed down to mindfulness and mindfulness dumbed down to bare attention, which now Vipassana is dumbed down to mindfulness, then all the teachings of Vipassana, all the teachings, the wisdom teachings of the Pali Canon just boil down to practicing bare attention. Then who needs Buddhism? Anybody can practice bare attention. So that's quite sad. They just flatten it like a steamroller running over it. And then people I know some people involved, people who really know better, and yet they say things, I guess, because people like hearing them. Say there are two types of meditation. There's concentration meditation, and then there's open presence, as if those are the two type of meditations when people can choose from. What are they thinking? I mean, they should know better. There are two types of meditation. In classic Buddhism, there's meditation, is called, often translated as analytical meditation, but not quite, even though it's literal, it's not a good translation, because it's meditation in which you're actively using your intelligence and reasoning and imagination. But that's not only analytical meditation on the nature of reality or impermanence, but it's also the cultivation of loving kindness, compassion. Not so much analysis, but you are using your intelligence and your memory and your imagination. You're using your mind very constructively, So there's a whole genre, it's a very large genre. Meditating on emptiness, meditating 4 applications of mindfulness, cultivating the 4 immeasurables, stage of generation and completion. These are all in that category. Big category. And then in the classic division, then there is the simple placing of attention, and that's samadhi, that's shamatha really. So those are two legitimate, time-tested categories. But to say, okay, in Buddhist meditation, there are 2 types of meditation, samadhi and then open presence, then this is just inviting down a massive dumbing down of Buddha Dharma altogether. Because people use open presence, they'll often say in the next breath, you're familiar with open presence, bare attention. Bare attention, mindfulness. Be here now, non-judgmentally, whatever comes up, just be present. It's the same. And Zen, it's basically, just sitting, it's the same. It's all the same, really. And Ram Dass, be here now, it's the same. And then there's, what's his name? Choiceless awareness. The great Indian master. Krishnamurti, brilliant man. Choiceless awareness. That's the same. And then, did I miss out anything? Open monitoring and then open presence. When it's all said and done, they're basically all the same thing. So you can either concentrate or you can just go, and that's open presence. So whichever one you like, they're fine, and then we'll find the brain correlates for each one. This is like, the image came to my mind just walking over here. It's like having a whole room full of pots. And some are clay pots, the most primitive kind, and some are made out of plastic, and some are cheap glass, and some are crystal. And among them, there's a Ming vase over here, and here's one from the Gandharva period, and here's just an elegant, super piece of art that is modernly created, an elegant piece of art. But they're, basically pots are pots. And so just bring a steamroller into the room and just drive all over all of them. Because after pots are pots. Pots are pots. And bare attention and choiceless awareness and zazen and choiceless and open presence, they're all the same basically. And now you just steamrolled everything in Buddhism and turned it into, I think they call it garbage after you've run over the. And so it's quite sad. It's quite sad. I have respect for Krishnamurti. He's a brilliant man. And his choiceless awareness, not trivial. But it's not Dzogchen. He never said it was Dzogchen. It's not Zen either. He didn't follow any particular religion. Zen I have a great respect for. Embedded in the profound view of Dogen and the Dharmakata Sutra and the Heart Sutra and so forth. Profound tradition. Profound tradition. Bare attention, the man who coined that term was a German monk, Nyanaponika, and he knew perfectly well it's not the same as mindfulness. He was an outstanding scholar, but he said when you're practicing mindfulness, venturing into vipassana, the first step can be very useful, and that is just a simple bare attention. Get things calm, be clear, and then you're ready to practice the real method, and that's the 4 applications of mindfulness, and that is way beyond bare attention. Anybody who reads the sutra, you can't mistake that for bare attention, because none of it is bare attention. But bare attention gets the door open, so you don't just bring in a lot of preconceptions, projections, and so forth. Bare attention is not the same as mindfulness, and Nyanaponika know that perfectly well. But if you want to commodify it, commercialize it, popularize it, then say, oh, what the heck, let's just say mindfulness is bare attention. And why don't we just say vipassana is bare attention too? People like that, and it's really easy. And so you just bring in the steamroller and smash everything. So there's hardly any Buddhism left. There's no Buddhism left, just bare attention. And then you bring in Dzogchen, which I just told you, authentic resting in open presence from the perspective of Rigpa, is one of the most subtle, profound, and radically transformative practices you can possibly do. Because you're resting in Buddha mind and you're completely deactivating your body, speech, and mind of a sentient being. And in a sustained fashion, imbued with renunciation, imbued with bodhicitta, imbued with the realization of emptiness, supported with shamatha, the stability and clarity of shamatha, having identified pristine awareness and resting in pristine awareness, then you rest in open presence, resting in Rigpa and viewing the whole of reality from that perspective in open presence. That takes a bit of preparation. That's not a beginning practice. But if you want to sell it, if you want to commodify it, you want to get a lot of followers and give them the sense that they're practicing Dzogchen, then you can teach it right off the bat. Who needs shamatha vipassana? Who needs the view? Just have people practice open presence and tell them you're practicing Dzogchen. And what I'm saying is you're practicing marmot meditation. Marmot, and I just like marmots. On a nice, warm, sunny day up there in Scotland, sitting on a nice rock, and just going, choiceless, non-conceptual, open. But I've never seen one achieve rainbow body. So maybe I can stop now. But it does sadden me when one of the most sublime meditations ever presented in any tradition is cheapened and dumbed down to something a rodent can do. And really rodents can do this. So what I'd like to do now I've finished my critique, but it's still going on a lot, just open presence, as if, oh sure, I practice open presence regularly. That was easy. But it's not anything. That's the point. It's not anything. It's not shamatha. Shamatha is always selective. Open presence isn't. It's not vipassana. There's no inquiry. It's not Dzogchen. There's no view. You're just sitting there like a rodent. But it's not anything else either. It's rodent meditation. And if you're accruing any karma at all, it could very wind up in your next lifetime. Because it's certainly not virtuous. There's nothing virtuous there, just going, So I've said my piece. Authentic open presence, Rigpa Choksha. So there's a passage in the text where Serakando unpacks actual 4 types of open presence. I thought about reading it. It's very esoteric. You can read it. Maybe you can even understand it. But what's clear at every single point is rodents can't do what she's describing. And so, at the same time, this is a dream yoga retreat in which we're culminating quite clearly today in dream yoga in the context of Dzogchen. And is it premature for us, the likes of us, I consider myself still very much a novice, is it premature for the likes of us to practice open presence? No, otherwise I'm not going to teach it. I'm about to do it now. There's not much to teach. But no, it's not premature. And here's the words of wisdom I've received from my teachers homogeneously for 48 years. Extremely useful to me. And that is whether it's in the Gelugpa tradition, where you have Lam Rim, And if you're really a Lama meditator, you take meditation by meditation and you master them. And you master this, and then you move on to that, and you master that. Eventually you come to shamatha, and you master shamatha, and then you go to vipassana, and you master vipassana, and then you receive your empowerment, and you master stage of completion, and stage of generation, and then stage of completion, and you become a Buddha. It's Lam Rim, stages of the path. And if you really want to proceed along that path, then you master each stage, okay? And same thing in natural liberation, preliminary practices, then shamatha, then vipassana, then dream yoga, and on you go, including Tut Gel, the direct crossing over, is in that same text. But what I've been told by my Gelugpa Lamas and my Nyingma Lamas, Kaggyupa Lamas, it's always the same message, and it's superb advice, what I've received. So I'm just passing on what I've heard, knowing it's extremely helpful and wise guidance. And that is, there are two extremes here. If I knock out the extremes, what's left is the middle way. And one extreme is to say, well, on this path, I haven't really completely transformed my whole way of viewing so that I'm living in accordance with the four thoughts that turn the mind. Haven't really completed that yet. So I probably shouldn't start shamatha, let alone vipassana, and anything beyond that, I'm not there yet. So I'll just stay on the preliminaries. And maybe I should actually do more of the mandala offering and the prostrations, because I haven't really mastered those. And Vajrasattva is really complicated. I haven't really mastered that either. It's kind of like a white blur there and then white dribbly stuff coming down, and it's something more or less at the heart, and I'm not really good at it. I think I better work on that some more, because I haven't perfected. And so one can be so rigid that you basically always stay in the most elementary basic practices and never move on because you haven't mastered them yet. It's an extreme. And the other extreme is, oh, what the heck, let's just do all of them. Let's just kind of cruise right on through. In fact, well, why not just go to the end and practice that? Open presence, I dig it, you know. And Vipassana is really hard, and shamatha is boring, and the other ones are kind of a nuisance, and I mean, I've done it so many times, when can I stop, you know? The Lam Rim, oh, Lam Rim, Lam Rim, Lam Rim, oh, I'm tired of Lam Rim. So let's just go to old present, let's just be done with it and go right there, you know, let's just go get the Rolls Royce at the end of the road. Just take the, and so there's an extreme of just not really going into anything in depth and then just jumping to the higher ones. The Chö, the Tumo, the Tsalung, the Mahamudra Dzogchen, and just basically skip all the stuff before, because why not just go for the end, get your Rolls Royce? And so that's an extreme. And what I've been encouraged all the way through is get the big picture. What's the nature of the path from where you are today all the way to enlightenment? And we'll do that before the afternoon's over. Get the big picture, get a good understanding of each of the stages of the path, and then focus on that stage where you are, that really transforms your mind, that you can do at least moderately well. You see, it really does transform your mind, it's truly beneficial, and you keep on focusing on that primarily, because that's the shoe that fits. That's the shoe that fits. And really work there until you really feel, okay, I think I really have developed renunciation, like Losang Tenzin, he really developed renunciation, and so on, and then you keep on moving on. But while you're primarily focusing on the practice that is right where you are, then don't forsake the later ones. Dip in and get a taste all the way through, including open presence. That's what we're going to do in this session. Get a taste. Get a taste of the Vipassana, get a taste of the Shamatha, get a taste all the way back to where you are, wherever you are, that you find the most benefit, transformative, you're capable. Focus there, master that, and then your primary emphasis shifts. Once you've achieved shamatha, great, then you shift the emphasis to vipassana. That becomes your primary practice until you've realized emptiness. Then you shift, and you go primarily to identifying rikpa, and then you shift, and then you rest in rikpa, in open presence, and then you shift, and you enter into the Tutgal. And you do the Tutgal practice, and then you shift, and then you're Buddha. You know. But while you're focusing on one, you're also adorning it with the other ones, so that when you ripen into that, you already have some familiarity. It's not unexplored territory. You've done it 100 times, 1,000 times. And so, yeah, I remember doing this. I was kind of trying it out earlier, but now I'm really ready. I've graduated to this level, you know? And so that was the word of wisdom. And so this is our last meditation. It's not too soon to start anything that I've taught here, otherwise I wouldn't teach it. And so what I'd like to do in this session, I think I'd like it for it to be silent. And so it'll be 24 minutes. You set your own pace, subtle body, speech, and mind. Practice shamatha of any method you like to calm the mind, relax, stable, and clear. And then when you find at least some interval where the mind is really quiet, thoughts have dissipated, then the investigation into the nature of that which is knowing. You know it well by now. You know how to do it. And investigate to see whether it's inherently existent, whether it's existent or non-existent. Get some taste, some sense of the emptiness of it. Resting there, have you blacked out? Is it a mere vacuity? You say, no, there's a brightness, a clarity. Identify that. Rest in that emptiness and luminosity, your closest approximation to the non-duality between the two. Resting there, that is the ray of Rigpa, even if you've not fully realized it, you're on the right track. Rest there, and then when you're resting there, that's the time, imbued with bodhicitta and shamatha and vipassana, and having identified the view, all of those, imbued with that, then you rest in open presence. And open presence, I'll describe it now, then I can really keep silent, because I don't want to interrupt the flow of your awareness. With all that preparation, when you come to your closest approximation of Rigpa, your best shot for today, then you rest there with your senses wide open, all senses wide open, and not directing attention here or there, just wide open. And resting in the stillness of your awareness, which is the closest approximation to Rigpa itself, and you simply release any activity of the body. You don't move. No speech, like a lute on which the strings are cut. And whatever activities of the mind arise, you don't edit them, you don't stop them, you don't proliferate them. Just let them be, like cloud formations arising in the sky and dissolving into the sky. And whatever comes and goes, when the surrounding environment, your mind, the body, whatever arises, just rest in that simple purity of awareness. Whatever comes, let it come, let it go. Whatever arises in the mind, let it naturally arise and naturally release. And rest there, now at the deepest level, without distraction, not moving, without grasping on any level, not identifying with, not reifying, but not even labeling. Discerning intelligence is very discerning, but it's not labeling. In other words, you completely deactivate your sentient being's mind. You release it, and just rest in awareness, wide open, unwavering, discerning, clear, not latching onto anything, not entering into any dualistic grasping, resting utterly at ease, effortlessly, open presence. And if you even have a taste of Rigpa, that's the way to make it go deeper and deeper and deeper, 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 deeper. That's open presence. So, 24 minutes silence. Hola, so if one is authentically engaging in this practice, which is sometimes referred to accurately as non-meditation, both in the Mahamudra and Dzogchen traditions, non-meditation in the sense that you're really not doing anything as a sentient being, and you're not really doing anything at all because you're simply resting in Rikpa and letting everything spontaneously flow from that. If your practice is authentic, then as you go deeper and deeper into that practice, that simple settling into open presence, then you'll more and more vividly see not only that all phenomena are empty of inherent nature, but you'll see that they are all equally, emphasis on equally, displays of your own pristine awareness. And since the source is pure, so are the effulgences or creative displays, all of them, of pristine awareness equally pure. So it's called taknyam, equal purity. So whatever you perceive from your perspective, you see as equally pure and with no preference, culminating in your perception of samsara and nirvana as being equally pure, so much so that you do not even prefer nirvana over samsara. That's the depth of this practice when it's done authentically. And when it's done the cheap counterfeit, like monopoly money, you're just sitting there resting in the awareness, the mental awareness of a sentient being and not practicing anything at all. That doesn't go anywhere, except for you probably feel very peaceful and maybe have some stress reduction. So we move on then, deeper in these classic teachings on dream yoga. We've covered then the transformation and the even going to pure lands, maybe actual pure lands, maybe very lovely, creations of your own mind. And then we go deeper, and that is you're in the midst of a lucid dream, and then what about the other aspect of nighttime practice for sleeping, dreaming, and dying? So sleeping, well, how about deep dreamless sleep? And how might that be applied to very deep meditation that could actually enable you to realize Rikpa? So we go to the next step of the outline, D, releasing the dream and ascertaining the substrate, and perhaps even pristine awareness. So back to Padmasambhava, direct quote. For an individual who nakedly identifies awareness, to nakedly apprehends awareness, and that is you've nakedly apprehended awareness, as in consciousness, when you achieve shamatha. It's not ultimate, but that's, as I said before, as Panchen Rinpoche said, as Jujum Lingpa said, once you achieve shamatha, and you're resting in that substrate consciousness, you've identified the nature of the conventional nature of mind. You've identified the essential nature of consciousness, awareness, because this is it without all the configurations of human and gender and all of that jazz. So for an individual who nakedly identifies awareness, though you've achieved shamatha, to apprehend the clear light, now that's Rikpa, in the nature of ultimate reality, and that's Dharmadhatu, so to move beyond the ascertainment of the mere relative nature of awareness to realizing primordial consciousness and its non-duality from Dharmadhatu. Now in the context of dream yoga. Coming back to Filippo's comment, if you can do this within the dream context, then your baseline consciousness is more powerful than your baseline consciousness in the waking state. Dream state's more subtle, more powerful. So can you meditate? Big time. You can go right into Dzogchen meditation. But first of all, become lucid in the dream. So here we are. For an individual who nakedly identifies awareness to apprehend the clear light in the nature of ultimate reality, that's dharmata, position your body as before, subdue your awareness, calm your awareness, and in vivid clarity and emptiness, focus your awareness at the heart. This is as you're falling asleep. Now, not at the throat chakra. If you want to go into lucid dreaming, focus on the throat chakra. But if you want to go into lucid dreamless sleep, then you focus on the heart chakra, because that's where all the energies converge when you fall into deep sleep, when you achieve shamatha, when you faint, and when you die. They go into the heart chakra. So you draw your energies there by focusing your attention there. Then the pranas that are very closely, connected to awareness, they also converge at the heart. That will bring you right into deep sleep. So the chances are very good then you could go directly from the waking state right into deep dreamless sleep, and you could arrive there if you maintain this vivid clarity and emptiness, arrive there lucid. So in other words, you're just going lucid all the way through, from the waking to lucid, dreamless sleep. When your sleep is agitated, do not lose the sense of indivisible luminosity and emptiness. In other words, you're approaching this, already with a pretty deep insight. We've covered this a number of times now. So when you're fast asleep, if the vivid, indivisibly clear and empty light of deep sleep is recognized, the clear light is apprehended. So if you can recognize the essential empty nature of your awareness, the luminous manifest nature of your awareness, while in deep sleep, you've realized Rigpa. Cool. As Yantra Rinpoche said, once you've achieved shamatha, Rigpa is very close. Once you're in deep dreamless sleep, if you're lucid, Rigpa is very close. One who remains without losing the experience of meditation all the time while asleep, without the advent of dreams or latent predispositions, just habitual propensities coming up, is one who dwells in the nature of the clear light of sleep. So it's not just being lucid in dreamless sleep. You cut through, literally, you cut through the substrate consciousness, which is conditioned within samsara and so forth, and you cut through right into Rigpa. So that's the clear light of sleep, just as there's the clear light of death. There's also the clear light of sleep, and this is a way to ascertain it directly. Now we'll find something very interesting here in this next long paragraph, and that is for those of you who have studied the dying process in the Indo-Tibetan tradition, then you know step by step the potency of each of the elements dissolves step by step, from earth to water to fire to air, air into space, space into consciousness, and there you go. Well, a strong facsimile of that occurs every time you fall asleep. So here he's going to describe that. The integration of the clear light of the elements. At first, when you fall asleep, with your forehead covered with warmth, so you're falling asleep and you feel some warmth in your forehead, that's an indication, as you're falling asleep, the lightweight facsimile of dying, because after all, in both cases, you wind up in the substrate. So there's a facsimile of the dying process, but lighter weight, because of course you'll wake up. So when you fall asleep with your forehead covered with warmth, earth is dissolving into water. What that means is, with just these 5 elements, that the potency, not that earth is actually turning into the water element, that's not what it means, but the potency of the earth element is dissolving, and then what remains is the potency of the water element, that's going to dissolve, and so forth. So earth is dissolving into the water element, the potency of earth vanishes away, and you're left with the potency of the water element, fluidity. At that time, train in the vivid sense of luminosity and emptiness, and focus your interest, focus your attention at the heart. Okay? Then when consciousness sinks, water is dissolving into fire, the potency of the water element dissolving into the potency of the fire element, and at that time too, do not lose the vivid sense of luminosity and emptiness. It's a later translation, it's better, a little bit better. The vivid sense of luminosity and emptiness. So we're keeping that homogeneous all the way through. When the mind becomes agitated, fire is dissolving into air, and at that time too, train in the vivid sense of luminosity and emptiness. Each time, whatever perturbations, whatever shifts are taking place as you're lucidly falling asleep, and observing the elements dissolve one by one as you're falling asleep, in each case, whatever comes up, just rest in that non-duality of luminosity and emptiness. Falling asleep, falling fast asleep, corresponds to air, the air element dissolving into consciousness. And at that time too, clearly and vividly focus on your heart without losing the earlier sense of luminosity and emptiness. So all the way through, of course, as the ascertainment of the empty essential nature of your consciousness and the manifest luminous nature of your consciousness, which you access by vipassana, that's the direct preparation, the direct catalyst for cutting right through to pristine awareness. And so you're doing the same thing here. You're practicing vipassana as you're falling asleep that will lead you directly to ascertaining the clear light of sleeping. Then the state of dreamless lucidity corresponds to consciousness dissolving into the clear light. So this would be corresponding to, again in the dying process, all the four elements have dissolved, air into space, space into consciousness. The final consciousness is the substrate, which is usually implicit consciousness, but if you get there lucidly, then you are conscious. And then when you cut through that, when that dissolves, that was the final stop as still being in the realm of being a sentient being or conditioned consciousness. If you're lucid there, then the very next thing that comes is that implodes, that dissolves, and is replaced by the manifestation of the clear light of death. So we're seeing something very, very parallel here. Then the state of dreamless lucidity corresponds to consciousness dissolving into the clear light, and at that time your sleep will lucidly remain in luminosity and emptiness that is unborn and devoid of recollection, devoid of mindfulness. And so again, you're not bearing anything in mind. There's no activity of your coarse mind, coarse or subtle mind, that is still activated, because you remain in luminosity and emptiness that is unborn. Unborn means Rigpa, and Rigpa doesn't have any of the features of the conditioned mind. It's utterly transcendent. If you recognize the luminosity and emptiness of that occasion, which is free of the intellect, which transcends the intellect entirely, the intellect with all of its conceptual categories and so forth, this is called recognizing the clear light. It's identifying Rigpa. That is similar to the dissolution of consciousness into the clear light at the time of death. So this is training for the intermediate state between death and rebirth. So now everything comes together. That each of these is a preparation. So here, this is a preparation, falling asleep lucidly, and going into lucid dreamless sleep, identifying the clear light of sleep is the perfect preparation that you can do repeatedly while you're still alive, which will prepare you for dying lucidly, coming to the dark near attainment lucidly. The clear light of death manifests and you identify it, and then you can find liberation at that point. And so this is the training for identifying the clear light of death, and the preceding training of recognizing the lucid dream, the dream as a dream lucidly, and going to abhirati or sukhavati and so forth, all of that, where there's imagery and so forth, and activity, being lucid in that and experimenting with it, then all of that is the perfect preparation for becoming lucid in the bardo of becoming, when you will have a wide variety of experiences, but the opportunity, number one, recognize the bardo as the bardo. It's so dreamlike, so similar, and then that can lead you to making a really wise choice for taking birth in Sukhavati, or if you have sufficient realization, you have the confidence, your bodhicitta is authentic, realization of emptiness authentic, you've realized Rigpa, you might make the decision there in that bardo that I don't think any need to go to Sukhavati, I'm good, I'm fine. And then just find some place you can be of greatest benefit and come back wherever it might be. So as Geshe Lama Taike told me in 1972 or so, if you feel I think I can do the best good to go to some hell realm, go. Or Genlam Rinpa was the yogi that spent about 25, 30 years in retreat. He was, when I went to Dharamsala for 5 months of retreat until my visa ran out in 1980, His Holiness was guiding me, but I couldn't drop in on him any time. I wanted to, there's other things to do. But my nearest neighbor was this extraordinary, wonderful yogi named Genlam Rinpa. And he was in the adjacent cabin just up the hill from mine. So he took me under his wing. So when I just had a question that come up, then he was available. And then once every 2 or 3 weeks, then I would go down, or a month, whatever, I can't remember. I would go down and see His Holiness. But I try to be, very careful about asking for his time. And Genlam Rinpa spent most of his adult life in retreat. Sublime human being. He died in Tukdam, about 4 or 5 days. He remained in the clear light of death. And, it was I or someone asked him, where do you plan to go in your next life? Yeah, it was him. And I have a lot of memories, this is one of them, but it's him. And where do you plan to go? What are your prayers? And he said, I just plan to go wherever I can be of greatest benefit. So he didn't choose Pure Land, I'll see, and then when I see where the most benefit is, I'll go there. So if you really have your act together, there's no need to go to Pure Land. Come back and be of benefit here. They don't really need you in the Pure Land. They're covered. But you might need them. So if you're an ordinary person like myself, I would really like to go there to get my act together, finish some work I've started here. But if you're already very accomplished, there's no need to go to Pure Land. Basically, you might actually bring the Pure Land with you. So, yeah. So that's that. So now we see the enormous relevance for this classic dream yoga practice, for becoming lucid in the dying process, ascertaining the clear light of death. That's a direct path to liberation, and that's through lucid dreamless sleep, lucid dream, become lucid in the intermediate period, the bardo, and then either take on a very, very meaningful human rebirth, it's a major option, or Pure Land, whatever seems to you the most meaningful and beneficial thing to do, then you do that. So that is the deep meaning of dream yoga in the Indo-Tibetan tradition. Moving on, the nature of the clear light, even after the stream of thoughts has ceased and you've gone to sleep, this is the clear light of sleep, of course, is a luminous and empty phenomenon of the dream state, which is like the center of lucid space, remaining nakedly without an object. When you're about to wake up, it turns into continuous samadhi. The visionary clear light entails visual appearances being present to you as if you were perceiving them during the daytime, even though you are asleep. So you may have clairvoyance. You may have clairvoyance while you're asleep. That resting in that, then appearances of other people's intersubjective reality may come to mind. There's this, I'm sorry to say, I hear he's ill these days. Charlie would know. But the Lama Yeshe, who's the abbot of Pasamye Ling, wonderful yogi. He spent 9 years in retreat and did multiple dark retreats for 49 days. And he told me that in one of his dark retreats, 49 days pitch black, and then meditating and not just sitting in the dark, that he, in one of his 49-day dark retreats, he actually could see what was outside of the retreat cabin. See it with mental awareness. So that still happens. I do hope he recovers. He's a wonderful human being. So even though you're asleep, you can see things. So the countryside and so forth are clearly seen. With mental awareness, your field of awareness may illuminate the surrounding environment. If you think you have not fallen asleep, you can be awakened. If you think you have fallen asleep, you will clearly see the things inside your house. If that is unified with the clear light of realization, this is best, and you'll certainly be liberated in the transitional process in the bardo, the intermediate state. In the important instructions on the 6 transitional processes, the 6 bardos, this is called the clear light natural liberation of delusion. So those are his pith instructions, actually quite sufficient and complete for the most meaningful thing you might possibly do if you're in deep dreamless sleep, is cut right through to Rikpa and dwell there. So the 6 bardos are taught because each one of the 6 bardos can itself be your domain, your platform, your launching pad for realizing Rikpa, going very, very deep in meditation. So some people are naturally gifted for dream yoga and lucid dreaming. Then this could be their primary platform. While dreaming, realize Rikpa, realize emptiness, and so forth. So maybe we'll just jump down to Setakando. We're almost finished and the time is good, the timing is good. So we'll go jump down to Setakando in her commentary to Buddhahood Without Meditation, revealed by Dujub Lingpa, teachings of various manifestations of the Buddha to him. She writes, when you become very, very deeply, progress very deeply in Dzogchen practice, then you'll find yourself going through different phases pertaining to dreams. So at this time, when you're very, very far along the path, at this time there are 3 levels. Optimally, dreams are purified in the clear light, which uninterruptedly pervades all your experiences throughout the day and night. So when you're very, very far along the path, almost a Buddha, then it said there will be no more dreams. You'll finish dreaming and forever finish dreaming, because they've served their purpose, perhaps, but they simply dissolve into the clear light, and you're simply dwelling in Rikpa all the time. So that's optimal. Next best, if you're not quite there yet, kind of a lower stage of evolution or progress in the practice, next best is to recognize the dream state for what it is, leading to such abilities as emanating within and transforming dreams. But that's good. Classic dream yoga. And at the very least, much earlier in the practice, at the very least, bad dreams cease altogether. You've so purified your mind that the latent propensities for bad dreams, negative dreams, is gone. You've purified it. And you have only good dreams, such as dreams of seeing deities and Buddha fields, drawing mandalas, bestowing empowerments upon others, and teaching the Dharma. For negative habitual propensities have been extinguished. And so those are the phases you can look forward to as you proceed along the path of Dzogchen. And then in terms of achieving awakening itself, coming to the end of the path. So again from the Vajra Essence, this extraordinary classic that covers all the phases of the path from beginning to end. Then here the Lake-born Vajra explains, finally pristine awareness is awakened as the ground of being, and you come to the nature of the Dharmakaya. The fundamental root of self-grasping is destroyed, and the mind of grasping is extinguished. The cord of dualistic grasping is severed, thereby extinguishing apprehended objects. All of dualistic grasping vanishes. Conceptualization involving dualistic appearances is extinguished, so you can expand into the uniformly pervasive nature of the purity and equality of samsara and nirvana. Your body becomes like a corpse abandoned in a charnel ground, so no fear arises even if you're surrounded by 1,000 assassins. Your speech becomes like an echo, reverberating back all the sounds of others. Like a rainbow dissolving into the sky, your mind expands into ultimate reality, Dharmata, which is absolute space of phenomena, free of conceptual elaboration, a great all-pervasive state beyond all dimensions. Still, when you've not quite finished yet, still the subtlest of latent cognitive obscurations, the subtlest domain of obscurations, jñē avarana, the subtlest of latent cognitive obscurations arise, and like the illumination from a flash of lightning in the sky, on occasion your body appears, for just the duration of a hand wave, as a luminous body in an expanse of light. Recognize that appearances and the mind occasionally separate, and speech and words of Dharma are sometimes uttered as they were previously, but when this phase is complete, in 10 days to 10 months, the subtlest of cognitive obscurations vanishes into absolute space. You're coming to the end of the practice of Tutgel here. This perfects the power of primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is, that knows nirvana, dharmadhatu, and you gain mastery of the originally pure ground, the primordial Dharmakaya. And by perfecting the power of primordial consciousness that perceives the full range of phenomena, the whole of samsara, all realms of samsara, all the myriad multiverses of all sentient beings, and viewing all of them from the perspective of the sentient being who is in the center of each universe, you gain mastery over all the spontaneously actualized kayas and displays of primordial consciousness, the 5 types or facets of primordial consciousness. As the originally pure, youthful Vaskaya, this is now perfect enlightenment, you are transformed into a totally perfected Buddha, and you become all-pervasive. And in terms of how your last gesture, how your last manifestation in this lifetime, then we come again to the Vajra essence in terms of manifesting as rainbow body. And so once again, there are different levels. It's quite interesting, not just one. So those of the most superior faculties are liberated as a great transference rainbow body, extending infinitely into the all-pervasive Dharmakaya, like water merging with water, or space merging with space. So this historically has been very, very rare. Padmasambhava achieved this, Vimalamitra achieved this, and probably one other, Jetsun Sengye Wangchu, 13th century or so. It's very rare though. But what this entails is, to give a bit more explanation, if this is the highest, most subtlest, most profound manifestation of rainbow body, and this occurs when you're in perfectly good health, but you've purified everything, you're finished, you become perfectly awakened, but the body is still here. And then if you manifest this great transference rainbow body with your physical body made of what the physical body is made of, then when you display this great transference rainbow body, your mind, your human mind, completely dissolves irreversibly into Dharmakaya. Your speech dissolves into the speech vajra of the Buddha. And your body, made of atoms and molecules, that actually dissolves right while you're in perfectly good health, all the materiality of your physical body, the energy, the matter, all of that dissolves right back into the primordial ground. It dissolves back into its ultimate source, which is the energy of primordial consciousness. It dissolves, and so the materiality of your body just evaporates, and you disappear. So you actually don't die, because there's nothing to die. Your mind dissolved into Dharmakaya, that's unborn. Your body dissolves back into the primordial consciousness, energy of primordial consciousness, that doesn't die. And so that's the one way you actually don't die at all, because there's nothing left to die. So you simply vanish. However, if you wish, in the very next instant, you could remanifest, looking exactly as you did before. And somebody's looking at you, and they blink. You could completely vanish and then decide, I think I could be some more help here. In the same way, and you manifest right again, looking exactly as you were before. And people can touch you, and they can give you food, and you can go to the bathroom, give all the appearances of being a human being. But it's all illusory, because now that you have achieved this great transference rainbow body, the form that you're emanating here has no materiality to it at all. It's a pure emanation of the energy of primordial consciousness. So that's very rare. In the past, it's been very rare. So that's a very superior faculties. Those of middling faculties attain enlightenment as a great rainbow body, like a rainbow vanishing into the sky. So this happens when they die. So they've lived out their life, and then they die, and then the body just dissolves into rainbow light, and then they're gone. They won't come back, not in that lifetime, they're gone. They'll manifest wherever they like, but their body just dissolves into rainbow light. And and leaving no materiality behind. There's nothing behind. They just completely take it away. It's all gone. So that's middling faculties. Those of inferior faculties, when the clear light of the ground arises, the colors of the rainbow spread forth from absolute space, and their material bodies decrease in size until finally they vanish as rainbow bodies, leaving not even a trace of their aggregates behind, and that's called the small rainbow body. So this is one of the most bizarre things, and it's happened a number of times just over the last 20 years or so. Not many times, but a few times. And in one case, even photographed. Maybe some of you saw it on Facebook or whatever. But it was a yogi back in Tibet, and he died, and his body shrank down. His head remained kind of the same size, but the rest of his body, he was normal-sized Tibetan, 5, 6, 7, 8 or so. His body shrank down to the size of a doll. And all of his robes, of course, remained as it were. And so you see a rather largish head, and then the body of like an infant. It's really, really weird. And it's happened many times. The body just shrinks, but it shrinks proportionately. The head maybe skull or whatever remains kind of maybe largish, but the whole body just diminishes. It's just the weirdest thing. And what that is that the materiality of a big body, most of it vanished, but it contracted to a smaller body, and what remains is still material. And then sometimes they just stop. They stop. Or sometimes they're very naughty attendants. When they see it shrinking and shrinking, they want to make sure they get some relics. So they just take that body and cremate it. That would piss me off. But of course, how would I know? But they really want relics. And if the body vanishes, no relics, And so sometimes it goes all the way, and then it's like that. And sometimes it just stops shrinking. And then you can do with the body you like. Then you burn it and get the relics. But I asked Gyatra Rinpoche, it's very, very common knowledge. This was not uncommon. I asked Gyatra, how far has that person gotten if your body shrinks but then it stops shrinking? He said, very far along the path, but not finished. Whereas if you're finished, then it shrinks, and then it's gone, not leaving any regular, and that's called the small rainbow body. When the clear light of the ground arises, the material bodies of some people decrease in size for as long as 7 days. Then finally, so this is kind of like maybe smaller than small. You know, kind of like, oh, okay, you still made it. It's still rainbow light, it's rainbow body. The material bodies of some people decrease in size for as long as 7 days. Then finally they leave only the residue of their hair and nails behind, and the dissolution of the body into minute particles is called the small transference. So it looks like that's even a lower level than small rainbow, because you're leaving the parts of your body, the hair and nails, that are no longer alive. You know, there's no prana in them. Whereas for the rest of it, so you just leave the outermost shards of your body. So I would really like to see at least one of those take place in Tuscany. What else do we have to do? You know, this needs to be happening. If this is all true, then this should be known, and it's known widely in Tibet. Everybody knew it. It happens so frequently. When I translated, not maybe 10 years ago, for the late Bernard Rinpoche, who was then the head of the Nyingma order, I translated for him just once in Los Angeles, giving him Medicine Buddha empowerment. And he said, I know with certain knowledge that during my lifetime, at least 6 individuals have achieved rainbow body. I know that. So roughly once out of 10 years, and that's after the genocide, after the destruction. What was it like before the demolition of Tibetan culture? This is after they've done their dirty work, you know, and destroyed it as much as they, and still every 10 years or so, some Tibetan out there achieving rainbow body. So, how to bring this all into the present? It's good to have the big picture. And all of the teachings, all the practices the great yogis of the past had, they're in the palm of the hand. We have outstanding teachers nowadays that are revealing them all. And from this 6 days that is now finished, at least we have enough to enter the path of Dzogchen and practice dream yoga in that context. So we'll have an evening session. I won't say goodbye. I'll just say adieu. And I'll see you in, let's say, 7:40. 7:40. I'll see you. We have time to practice still.
Don't leave, Leah, Lama.
Me? Don't leave?
No. Where is Lara and Arthur? Please come take the microphone.
So, dear Lama Alan, as this retreat is coming to a close, it's my great privilege and honor to say a few words on behalf of our Sangha here and to express our deepest gratitude for the priceless and sublime teachings you've shared with us this week. We covered nighttime dream yoga, daytime dream yoga, the entire Buddha Dharma, from the Four Noble Truths to the 4 philosophical schools to culminating in the sublime teachings of Dzogchen. Not to mention the entire history of science and the philosophy of mind from the ancient Greeks to the present day. So I think it would be an understatement to say that you've covered the topic thoroughly and comprehensively. And I'm sure that your hero, William James, would agree that what we've received here, what you shared with us, was an education par excellence. But I think no matter how intellectually stimulating and thrilling this was, it was so much more than that. And you shared with us the entire path. And you showed us how these teachings are directly relevant to what we call our Lebenswelt, what you called it, our lived experience, to our living sleeping, dreaming, and dying. And you guided us in some practices to show us how to practice these teachings and guided meditations that we can and will practice from now on until we are all fully enlightened. So, in that sense, I think what you offered us is indeed the great encompassment. So, as we are ready to disperse and go our separate ways, we will keep you in our hearts and minds with love and affection and gratitude, and with the deepest wish that all your aspirations may come true, and that you may return very swiftly to teach us again, for the sake of all of us, the planet, and all sentient beings. Thank you.
Hello, good evening everyone. Good evening, Alan. My name is Arthur, and Elizabeth came to me during lunch break and asked me to prepare something to show our appreciation for this week. And I thought of singing because that's kind of my thing, but then we didn't have time to find anybody who plays an instrument. So that's something for the next retreat, I guess. But then I thought of reciting a poem, which was recited to me a few months ago, and it really had an imprint on me, and I wanted to share it with the group and to Alan. And yes, it's a poem that kind of came to my mind when Alan gave us the example of the coal falling through the pile of snow. And I'll just let the poem explain itself. So it's called Being Human. I wonder if the sun debates some mornings not wanting to rise out of bed from under the down-feather horizon. If the sky grows tired of being everywhere at once, adapting to the mood swings of the weather. If clouds drift off trying to hold themselves together, make deals with gravity to loiter a little longer. I wonder if rain is scared of falling, if it has trouble letting go. If snowflakes get sick of being perfect all the time, each one trying to be one of a kind. I wonder if stars wish upon themselves before they die, if they need to teach their young how to shine. I wonder if shadows long to just for once feel the sun, if they get lost in the shuffle, not knowing where they're from. I wonder if sunrise and sunset respect each other, even though they've never met. If volcanoes get stressed, if storms have regrets, if compost believes in life after death. I wonder if breath ever thinks of suicide, if the wind just wants to sit still sometimes and watch the world pass by. If smoke was born knowing how to rise, if rainbows get shy backstage, not sure if their colors match right. I wonder if lightning sets an alarm clock to know when to crack. If rivers ever stop and think of turning back. If streams meet the wrong sea and their whole lives run off track. I wonder if the snow wants to be black, if the soil thinks she's too dark, if butterflies want to cover up their marks, if rocks are self-conscious of their weight, and if mountains are insecure of their strength. I wonder if waves get discouraged crawling up the sand only to be pulled back again to where they began. If land feels stepped upon, if sand feels insignificant, if trees needs to question their lovers to know where they stand, if branches waver at the crossroads unsure of which way to grow, if the leaves understand they're replaceable and still dance when the wind blows. I wonder where the moon goes when she's in hiding. I want to find her there and watch the ocean spin from a distance. Listen to her, stir in her sleep. Effort give way to existence. Thank you.
Time is running out, so I'm going to keep it really short. But it wouldn't be right to just leave here without giving really big thanks to Elizabeth and Judith. They spent so much effort, they did so much to prepare and make this retreat possible. So let's give a very big and warm thank you to them. And I shortly wanted to add, this is not only the work of those two, they were supported by the other people from the CCM, by Kashka, by many others at university, technicians, I don't know who else, but thanks to all these people, we had the opportunity to listen to all the teachings of our dear Lama Alan. So thank you so much.
See you soon.